I think we've kind of found ourselves in an arena where the direct cremation market is growing, or it's there with prices going lower. And, as much as I would hate to say this, but it is becoming more of like a commoditized service now, like I would say. And I know you're big on the memorialization, but do you think that the direct cremation market still grows and continues to have a huge place in the future? Or do you think that we can kind of tie that to more of the memorialization and bring it back to where the memorialization and the services post the cremation are done with the funeral director?
That's a great question. First of all, I don't think very seldom is there ever a direct cremation, in my opinion. They're going to do something, whether it's go to the park and have a barbecue and a few beers at the park after, you're going to get together on the weekend, or whether they do something at their country club or at their clubhouse or the community they lived in, or if they do have a little get together at the house, they're going to do something. I think that the term direct cremation from a commodity standpoint, from us as funeral home side, obviously is something that's a term or definition that we use. But when you really look at the whole picture, there is very, very few direct cremations where the cremation is done, the urn is picked up, it's taken home and just left there. There's very seldom. The thing that we need to figure out as a profession is that how do we become involved with those consumers, and how do we add value to them when it comes to the service aspect of it? And so I really believe, I've kind of looked at trends, in different marketplaces, and I won't give any specifics, but several years ago, there were a lot of places in major marketplaces where there was $4.95 direct cremation. They don't exist anymore, just due to the fact that inflation and everything else is like that. But there's still that place out there that caters directly to that consumer that wants just that, just a commodity, for lack of a better term. And so I think those will continue to be there. But I think us as an industry has gotten smarter about how we market to that consumer through social media, through whatever aspect you want to talk about it. We've gotten smarter about creating the discussion about one of the things that we used to talk about all the time with our cremation consumers, and we had beautiful cremation inventories. We'd always ask the question, where's that urn going to be 5, 10, or 50 years from now? And so asking that question all of a sudden puts a legacy with that individual or that family that's chosen supposedly just cremation. In our business, we were converting 30% of our direct cremation families to permanent memorialization in our cemeteries by just asking that one question. Wow. But now, obviously, if you're a standalone funeral home and you don't have that opportunity, this is where it provides an opportunity to get involved in your community to make sure that inventory is being developed for these consumers. Direct cremation is always going to be there because some people that's all that they know is that dad wanted to be cremated. But when you really get down and you start talking about the situations that deal with these families, the reason why they use that term is because they don't know anything different. And so it's our job to educate them, and educating them before the death ever occurs is more important now than ever, because they're just going to refer back to what they think they know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thinking about the future, we are starting to see a lot of companies, private equity backed or what have you, start to roll up, try to acquire funeral homes. I know that the ownership right now is, anywhere from, let's just say 75 to 85% family owned, but mm-hmm. I think that's quickly changing. Do you see that trend to continue to change? And do you think, I know you mentioned earlier that you think the family funeral homes are probably going to start having challenges that they're going to have to overcome. Do you see the trends happening where these roll-ups and acquisitions kind of start to consolidate a lot of the market?
Well, I think it's, we see that in every aspect of people that are dealing with senior population. You look at it, you look at it in hospices, you look at it in hospitals, you look at it, anything that's dealing with the aged population, consolidation, huge investments going into those things, hospitals, everything else like that is gearing towards this huge increase that we're going to have in things that people are maximizing, their resources in order to, for lack of a better term, a future date of where they're going to be able to capitalize on this. And so I think that you're going to continue to see the consolidation. I think you're going to continue to see places, the thing that I really saw when I was in the acquisition mode, and this has been several years ago, is that, when you get to a second or third generation that's coming into these businesses, as real estate prices get more and more expensive, et cetera, it becomes a business decision for these people to sell their businesses because one is their profitability is not as strong as it was due to you're not going to get the same revenue from a cremation family as you do from a burial family. You get these children that have really not had the passion to be in the business that their father or somebody else did. And all of a sudden now you start looking at it from a business decision and saying, my real estate here is worth more than this. And I've got a company that's willing to, pay me more than probably really what it's worth. It makes it a really easy decision if you don't have the passion and the desire to serve families as what the previous generation did. And so I think that just from that aspect alone, that you're going to continue to see the firm sell. And then when you look at a firm that, one of these acquisition companies that comes in and they say, well, we've got this big traditional building that's sitting here, but yet we've got two other funeral homes here in town that we could, consolidate this business for. Next thing you know is that building gets sold, that big traditional funeral home goes away, and they just more cater towards what the consumer's really wanting. And so that's why I think you continue to see the large traditional funeral homes become less and less as the future goes on. In addition to that, I think that the key that the local funeral director needs to understand now is that how do I be involved in that service aspect that somebody's going to have? That's really what they need to figure out how to do. So
interesting. Do you think that's ultimately good, bad, or neutral for the consumer, for the family?
Well, you're getting into a philosophical, discussion. It's like, people are moving away from standard religious practices. People are becoming less and less affiliated with, traditional faith-based religions. And so that changes the dynamic of, when I was in the business with my dad, when I first started, we knew that if you were a Japanese family, there was going to be a, visitation the night before. We went to the church at 10 in the morning for a visitation and, afterwards. And then we went and had a cremation afterwards. And every single family was the same. The Protestant families were the same. It was a LDS family. We knew exactly what the protocol was going to be. And it's because these people were entrenched in their faith and what they were doing. But now we've got more and more of these young people that don't even associate or affiliate with the religious thing. Is that anything's game now, right? And so this is where we really, I think, as an industry, need to understand these new consumers that are selecting, cremation or funeral services for their loved ones, of understanding what they want. And sometimes it's not what we think that they want. And that makes it really difficult. So
awesome. So why don't we talk about, you have 4 more months or so of your presidency. What are you looking forward to coming out of Cana in the next 4 months and beyond?
Well, the nice thing about it is I'll still be on the board of directors for another year after my presidency until I'll be off the board. So, one of the things that I've been really proud of that we've done this year is, in difficult times and, businesses are down, you look at the death rate down, we've still maintained a very, very high persistency of families funeral homes and people that join Cane and stay with us. One of the things that I talked about when I in Washington, D.C. last year is that, we're the Cremation Association of North America. We really wanted to increase our presence in not only, we do a good job in Canada, but I really wanted to see us increase our businesses in Mexico specifically. And so the COCP certification in Spanish has been really good. And we've had really good response from some of the associations in Mexico that want to be more a part of what we're doing in the certification process specifically. And so I'm going to continue to work on that for the next few months. In addition to that, I've always been a firm believer in education. I've kind of challenged our leadership at Cana of what else can we educate consumers on, because I'm a firm believer in education. The CCS that came out, that was developed since I've been on the board, and doing things online to make it easier and more accessible for funeral directors to become more educated and helping them run their businesses. And so that value added aspect of it will always be something that I'm passionate about. But those are the things that we're going to continue to work on. So
awesome. And what about you personally? What are you going to do?
That's a good question. I'll be 59 next month, and I'm not ready to retire. There's some other opportunities I've got out there that are available, and obviously I'm a family guy, and making sure my parents are taken care of, and those things are always going to be important to me. My dad's 88, and so I'm always going to be involved in something. I've had a lot of people that have talked to me about doing some different things, and so time will tell. I'm still going to be there. What I'm doing, I don't know for sure what that looks like right now. I'm just
Awesome.
focusing on making sure with my Cana presidency stays active in what we're doing, and then we'll see what the future holds later this year, or next year. So,
Awesome. All right. Cool. Anything else that you wanted to talk about?
no, I think it's an exciting time for this industry. Businesses out there are going to be successful just based on of what's going to happen as far as just the number of deaths that are going to happen, and that's why you see these consolidators maximizing everything they can and putting all the cash they can towards acquiring businesses, because it's gonna be there. It's just we need to be prepared as an industry to understand the consumer better now than ever, and be prepared to take advantage of what's coming. And I'm excited. It's you look at a lot of other industries and stuff out there. There's just so many things to be negative about based on the economy or whatever. But death care industry is continues to be exciting to me. I think it's going to be something that there's a lot of things that are going to come that I don't even know what's coming yet, that I think are going to be exciting to do that. And I just have to say that I've had a couple of people get into this business that came from other industries, and it's just the camaraderie we've got one with another in this business, and the way that we support each other and the way that we do that. It's just exciting. I've got so many friends in this business that I've met over the years. I truly consider them friends for the most part, and I don't have really anybody that I've ever associated with this business that I would call an enemy. And so that's just a benefit, and it's just really self satisfying to be able to call these people my friends that I deal with on a daily basis, and to meet with them and rub shoulders with them and figure out this business that we're all in. So
Definitely. I think, being me as someone who's been in the industry about now almost a decade, I felt like the first 5 or so years was pretty much the same. And ever since then, it's just been a whirlwind of change, and everyone pushing forward, and things are changing at a
but
really
don't you think it's
quick
exciting
pace.
though?
Yeah, no, I like it. Yeah, I like it. I think it makes it more dynamic, and I think ultimately competition, innovation, all that makes it better for ultimately the family. So I personally enjoy the faster pace that things are moving now.
Well, another phrase that I heard several years ago is that change presents a challenge, but a challenge also presents an opportunity. And
Mhm.
so those individuals that can adapt to the change, there's always going to be an opportunity for them to be better at what they do, more successful. There's just so many upsides to what we do, and in this business, and it's fulfilling to be able to see individuals that really appreciate what you do, especially from the funeral home and funeral director side of this business, and even from the supply side. If you can come in and help a funeral home really um, build a better mousetrap, for lack of a better term, or do something better, it builds a bond and a relationship for a lifetime that you just appreciate. So
Find it really interesting.